All right. Good morning to all of our attendees. Thank you for participating in this webinar with us this morning. My name is Bud Faust. I'm the Commercial Services Director with the New Orleans Metropolitan Association of Realtors. I work exclusively with our Commercial Investment Division. We're very happy this morning to be putting on this program in partnership with JEDCO. They have some very exciting initiatives I know they want to discuss about connecting with the commercial real estate community. A number of really interesting speakers going to give us a lot of very good information. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so please keep yourself muted during the presentation itself. If you would like to submit written questions during the presentation, you can do so using the Q&A function or the chat function. And then once things are opened up for questions and answers, you can also use the raise your hand function. So once again, thank you for joining us this morning. And I'm now going to turn things over to Jerry Bologna, President and CEO of JEDCO.
Thank you, Bud. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us. As you can imagine, it's an interesting time in economic development right now. There's just a little bit going on, but we have been looking for quite some time at more ways to partner with NOMAR, to partner with CID, and this is just one of those outreach efforts. So we're excited to take this opportunity to update you not only on JEDCO's functions, but give you some information on some initiatives that we're working on that I think really plays well into the mission and function of your organization as well. As you know, the governor announced yesterday that the state would be moving into phase 2 in Jefferson Parish. We're doing the same, and I'm very proud of the work the JEDCO team has done in preparing our back to business approach for Jefferson Parish. And I would just encourage all of you to go to the JEDCO website, www.jedco.org, where you can download the entire back to business plan, which includes the phasing of businesses as well as guidance, industry specific guidance and general guidance on getting back to business. And it's been pretty clear through this first phase that while businesses can open up, I think the consumer is ultimately going to dictate how quickly this recovery takes place. And only when businesses can prove that they are taking the necessary precautions will we see really a full return to shopping and eating out and the things that we've enjoyed thus far. So I just wanted to put that out there. Again, you can go to the JEDCO website to view that. But more specific to our charge today is to discuss the programs that make JEDCO effective. And that is our mission as an independent yet complementary arm of the parish government. Our objective is to attract, grow, and create new businesses in our area. Our mission is to proactively influence the economy through retention and creation of quality jobs, entrepreneurship, and investment in Jefferson Parish. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit today. Typically, people read about JEDCO when you see a large attraction project announce they're moving here, or worse, if a company ever decides to leave here or close their business. But on a daily basis, we are working on a number of fronts to improve our economy and build it organically here in Jefferson Parish. This is a very interesting time, not only because of the COVID-related situation we're dealing with, but we are in the midst of ending basically a 20-year run of our Jefferson Edge long-term economic development strategic plan, and then launching into a new long-term economic development strategic plan. So the original Jefferson Edge, which we embarked on in the year 2000, has been going on. We've been updating that just about every 5 years. And for the last 5 years, we've basically been focusing on these 5 industries, food, beverage, fishing, and seafood, the healthcare, especially as it relates to destination healthcare, IT systems and products, environmental management, and water transportation, distribution, and logistics, as well as focusing on 5 cross-cutting issues, permitting being one that I'm sure many of you in the commercial real estate industry have been impacted by. Our permitting process in Jefferson has ebbed and flowed over the years, and for several years there, it was less than desirable. And we're pretty proud of us placing a focus on that permitting process and helping to improve the delivery of permits in Jefferson Parish. But we've also focused on things like workforce development and workforce mobility, allowing our workforce to get to the job centers. Our building stock, and especially as it relates to commercial buildings and residential buildings, was less than desirable. And I know we're going to touch on one of our big efforts a little later in this program. The development of Churchill Park out here in Avondale, downtown Avondale, Louisiana, has been a focus really for 20 years to get us to this point, and now we're embarking in this next iteration of the Jefferson Edge on an expanded role that Churchill Park will play in the future of our parish. And then a little bit about the services that JEDCO offers. Some of these you might not be aware of, but people typically think of us from a tax incentive standpoint. So there are many statutory tax incentives that the state of Louisiana offers, quality jobs or restoration tax abatement, some of these programs you typically hear about. JEDCO typically is the administrator of those programs at the local level, and we work with the parish government and the state to execute those programs and allow our businesses to maximize their returns. We do a lot of site selection. We do this in partnership with the real estate industry, but oftentimes we're dealing with confidential prospects that are coming to us through our partners, either at Greater New Orleans, Inc. or the State Department of Economic Development. And we're providing site selection assistance for companies that are either moving in, expanding, downsizing, whatever the case may be. At our disposal, we have a couple of tools that are interesting and we think are useful if you want to utilize those. But we have the ability to pull a number and range of demographic reports, from population and income levels to education attainment levels. We can pull those reports by geography or zip code or different ways. So if you're working with a prospect, those are certainly some of the tools that might bring value to your relationship with your clients. We have a marketing database. So there are, at any point in time, approximately 18,000 occupational licenses issued in Jefferson Parish. We have that complete database at our disposal. So we allow our companies in Jefferson to query that database, and you can, again, we can pull that by zip code or by areas around, or if you're looking for a particular vendor, for example, we can query that by industry classification. That's another useful tool that we have. But then in general, working on business attraction, Parish Interface, oftentimes we have companies that are relying on us to put them in front of elected officials, or if there's a matter that needs to be handled with a particular parish department or utility, we can provide that interface. We do that free of charge. And then finally, something that's a little bit unique to us as an economic development group, most organizations of our kind do not have small business financing at their disposal. But we're very proud of the fact that JEDCO is very effective in providing small business financing to startups and existing businesses throughout the area. And that's something that we're very proud of, but we rely on a lot of that being word of mouth, advertising. Next slide. The bread and butter of what we do in economic development is business retention. So pretty much any journal or periodical you read on economic development is going to tell you 80 to 85% of your job creation is coming from your existing businesses in the area. So while it's interesting when we're able to attract that big company that brings 100 or 300 jobs a pop, the real meat and potatoes of economic development is our local businesses, our small businesses, our mom and pops that might be adding 1 or 2 jobs here or there. So likewise, we place a tremendous focus on business retention and expansion. Our team met last year with 140 companies. Those are face-to-face visits to gauge those companies' growth strategies, to offer assistance, to provide help with them as they add jobs in the area. A few of the other tools that we do have at our disposal, and this is certainly not for you to totally understand, but just to have that knowledge and be armed with the knowledge of what we have available in Jefferson. We've done everything from payments in lieu of taxes. These are arrangements whereby the fixed asset can be transferred to JEDCO as a political subdivision. It comes off of the tax rolls, and then we negotiate with that company what we call a payment in lieu of taxes. So there's a negotiated payment annually in place of what the taxes would be. We've done that, for example, on the Avondale shipyard or other projects like that. The parish does have the ability to enter into local incentives. We're working right now with a call center that's considering onshoring about 90 jobs that were previously here and had moved offshore, and now they want to bring those back. So we're working with the parish on potentially crafting a local incentive on a per job basis. I mentioned the financing program, site selection, Parish Interface. We've done job fairs and offered training space. So for example, when Sleep Number came in and they had a very aggressive timeline and needed to hire 100 people right off the bat, JEDCO did everything from offering space to host the job fairs to helping staff that and set that up. So that's something that we can do here at our office or other offices throughout the parish. And then generally we sell ourselves as being having a business-friendly climate. We have elected officials that are engaged, low property taxes, reasonable property taxes, with a high value when it comes to the delivery of services. And then we really tell all of our businesses that we've worked with and have been able to attract to the area that bringing them here is just the beginning. We're more focused on the long-term partnership and the long-term value we can bring to those companies. Again, the purpose of this is not to have you understand every tax incentive out there, because I've been doing this 20 years and some of these change and the rules change, and it's still complicated even for people like me. But for you to know that if you're dealing with a company that is ramping up and hiring, typically there's something they can qualify for. The enterprise zone, which is a job tax credit and a partial sales tax rebate for improvements they're putting into their facility or building. There's the quality jobs program for those companies that are creating those higher paying, higher wage jobs, which is actually a payroll rebate, actually dollars back to that company for creating that payroll. We help foster and facilitate the inventory tax credit for companies. One of the more popular programs is our restoration tax abatement program. This is a program whereby if someone is putting or making substantial improvements to their building, it essentially freezes the tax assessment on that building at the pre-improved level for up to 10 years, 5 years and a 5-year renewal. So that's a program that people have taken advantage of on both the commercial and residential side. and then also manufacturer sales tax exclusions. So if you know somebody that just fits into one of those categories, we just typically ask you to allow us to engage with that client, and we're happy to facilitate that. And with that, really one of the things that we believe can derive some value to your clients is the fact that we have the ability to finance a wide range of projects here in Jefferson Parish. And I'll answer any questions on my portion towards the end, but at this point, I want to introduce our Director of Financing, Jennifer Laparis, to talk about the financing programs we have here at JEDCO.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to jump right to it here. Right now, as of today, we have 2 loan programs available at JEDCO. One is our JEDGROW loan program. It is specific to Jefferson Parish-based businesses, and it's a fairly flexible loan program. So anything from startup costs to leasehold improvements, working capital, there's a lot of room in there for whatever that small business needs, and we can get a bit creative with it. But that program is pretty limited as far as loan amount, just based on our availability of funds. I think the loan program that we offer that really fits with this group and could be a bit of a game changer for what you do on a day-to-day basis is our SBA 504 loan program. It's not a widely used or widely spoken about loan program in the state of Louisiana, so I wouldn't expect any of you to have a good understanding of it, but just to simplify it for the purposes of this chat, it's a program where we do a 50-40-10 split for commercial real estate project costs. So that includes the purchase, renovation, leaseholds, furniture, fixtures, equipment, anything that's associated with that commercial real estate asset can be financed into the loan. There's going to be a first mortgage holder. It's usually a bank, but it can even be an individual. There's no special title that you have to hold or certification to be a first mortgage holder. So they're going to do 50% of that project cost. JEDCO is going to facilitate 40% of those costs, and then the customer is coming in with 10%. So that's right there is a benefit to your client or your buyer, because that's 50% of what a typical commercial mortgage down payment is. So the second benefit, I would say the greatest one for your client or buyer, is the rates. The rate on, if you can see your screen, the rates right now for our 20-year fixed, and then, so that's fixed for the life of the loan, is 2.81%. In case you can't see your screen, I'm going to say that one more time. The fixed rate for a 20-year amortization on our piece of a commercial mortgage is 2.81%. It's monumentally historically low. So now is a great time. It's also available as a debt refi or a debt refi with a cash out for expansion. As I stated, it's not a widely known or widely used program in Louisiana, but that makes it even more advantageous for you if you're on this call. It's a big value add for your client or your buyer if the other realtors in the market aren't talking about it. I strongly encourage for you to be the one talking about it. Next slide, please. All right, and this is just a visual representation of some of the projects that we've done through our 504 program. Foyle Seafood House, it's on Magazine Street. It's a historic property. It used to be a music store, and it was renovated, basically gutted to the dirt floor, and it's now Boyle Seafood House. That was a project that we financed with JEDCO through the 504 program. This is a big one. This is a program that JEDCO offers statewide. It is not, we are not limited to Jefferson Parish for this program. So Atomic Burger, you see that picture there if you can see your phone. We did a 504 loan to build the new Atomic Burger restaurant in Baton Rouge. It's right near the LSU campus. It is exploding. And so that's a great expansion of an existing Jefferson Parish business. And then there's this Hubig's Pies picture on this slide. That is actually a 504 that we looked at and we have approval. That's pending until, you know, that the owner figures out everything that they want to do to bring that product back to New Orleans. But that was actually just for leasehold improvements and for equipment, which are also eligible uses under the 504 program. The last thing I kind of want to say is there's a lot of misnomers or rumors, misconceptions about SBA loans. Not all SBA loans are created equal. This program, you know, the common misconception is, oh, there's a lot of paperwork. Oh, it's a long process. Oh, they can call the loan. Oh, they want to take your house. Oh, they want to take your blood and skin samples. None of that is true. It's not more paperwork than a regular commercial mortgage. It is a bit more as far as approval timeframes, but we can usually work it into a standard commercial mortgage purchase agreement timeline. And no, they do not automatically take your house. And I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions, and we're not in a capacity to get into sort of the ins and outs of how this works in too much of detail right now. But my name and contact number is not only at the end of this presentation, it's also on our website. So if you think that you have a candidate for this loan program, or if you want to know more, I really encourage you reach out and we can get into the dirty details of it. And now I'm going to pass this along to Annalisa Kelly. She is our Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Good morning, all. Just wanted to share a few specific initiatives that we at JEDCO are looking to undertake this year or in the upcoming years that might be relevant information for you all as commercial real estate brokers. One upcoming initiative is going to be focused on brownfield sites. So for those of y'all who are not familiar, brownfield is any site that has had previous contamination. Sometimes, you know, they're thought of as these major industrial sites with huge hazardous materials or asbestos, but they can be dry cleaner facilities or old gas stations. So any site that has had previous contamination is a brownfield site. We recently received a small grant through the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality to start building an inventory of potential brownfield sites that could be eligible for assessment funds or even cleanup funds. The parish, the Regional Planning Commission, and JEDCO were looking at doing this property outreach to property owners to learn more about these underused sites that may not even be listed, but the owners don't know what to do with them. Just to really focus on what's out there, what could be done with the site, and then potentially finding additional funding to help do these key environmental assessments and potentially even cleanup dollars. So that'll begin in October. We're really focusing through this grant on 2 opportunity zones. As you may know, there are 7 opportunity zones in Jefferson Parish, 2 of which are the ones that we're focusing on. It's Avondale, Bridge City, and West Wego, and then going into Marrero. If you're not aware of the geography of those sites, you can email me, or we actually have a document on our website that shows where these are. But we're going to be focusing on those 2, and we would love to hear from you all if you have sites in those 2 areas, or even beyond those 2 areas that could be potential brownfields we'd love to engage you and the property owners in the redevelopment of those sites. Another couple upcoming initiatives we want to just mention with you all. One is a brand new initiative called Sites and Bites that unfortunately we were going to launch just, I think actually this past month in May, but with COVID, on-site visits are currently on hold until further notice. But this came out of a discussion internally about how we can really showcase some of our major redevelopment opportunity sites in Jefferson Parish, and engage with banks and investors and commercial real estate brokers. So what the vision is for this program, which again we'll hopefully be launching later this year whenever it's safe to do so, is to have a regular breakfast tour of these major sites, sites including Clearview City Center, where they're doing their major redevelopment, Avondale Shipyard, the airport with the south side available land, so that brokers and other investors and interested parties can come and see these sites, get tours, get one-on-one interaction with the owners or the representatives to learn more about them. I know there's a lot of interest in Avondale, and sometimes it's challenging for lots of individuals to get individual tours, but this can be a facilitated group tour over breakfast, hence the name Sites and Bites. So we envision it being with breakfast in the morning, so to not take away from everyone's busy days. And again, we'll be in touch when we can start that, but the first one will be with Clearview City Center. Then, as Jerry mentioned, something we do a lot at JEDCO is site selection. So we'll hear from a prospective or existing company looking for land or a building, looking to expand or looking to relocate. And so we'll help them with site selection, and we'll partner with LED and Geno Inc. in trying to attract that company. But what we'd like to do and start doing more is really have, for some of the major prospects, which will be confidential, but we'd like to begin reaching out to you all through an email group saying, company X is looking for 100,000 square foot warehouse on the West Bank, with this kind of highway access, et cetera. And then you all can see that, know what your listings or potential listings better than anyone else. You can let us know directly. That way we can, instead of us trying to do this research, you could just tell us, hey, I got the site, or I know of the site, it says it's for sale, but actually the owner might be open to lease it. We'd love to just engage with you directly on how we can get some of these companies into potential sites that we may not be aware of. So we'll be again in touch on how we'd like to do that. But if you are interested, please email me. My email address will be at the end of this presentation, or it's on our website if you'd like to be on this email list. And then finally, I just want to touch on two initiatives that Jerry mentioned briefly that we've been involved with really heavily that could be of interest to you or your representatives. One is Churchill Park. That is the nearly 500-acre park on the West Bank in Fairfield. That is, we just recently wrapped up a master plan for that, and the vision is for it to be a catalyst for development with smart planning. If you look at an aerial, you all know this better than anyone else, of the Greater New Orleans area, the last developable area, green space, that's levee protected in the Greater New Orleans South Shore area is this Fairfield region. And so we have this opportunity to develop something that's progressive in terms of stormwater management, that has mixed use development with residential, that maybe is missing some of the attractive features that young people are looking for. We can have here at Churchill. We're going to be working on, there's a lot of next steps, including infrastructure improvements, market analysis, and updating the zoning. But we're really excited about this opportunity. And while there are some next steps, we can start taking some prospects. We have already some development, the Delgado University site, JEDCO, our conference center and the Pat Taylor STEM Academy are all located at Churchill Park. So there is room for further development, even with the existing infrastructure that we have. And then, I don't know if you can see this, it kind of gets cut off. No, it's fine. This is actually residential rather than commercial, but it's a major initiative. So I wanted to touch on it briefly. We, through the EDGE plan, created the Housing Stock Enhancement Strategic Plan, looking at the existing housing stock in Jefferson Parish, and seeing that there's room for improvement in terms of what young people are looking for. So we've, over the past year and a half or so, focused on Tarrytown, and worked with Tulane, the School of Architecture, to develop architectural plans for renovated houses that are maybe more attractive to younger families, mid-century modern. They still fall in line with the existing neighborhoods. They're not standing out. We worked with the Tarrytown Civic Association, and now actually we're working with NOMAR, Noel, and the HBA to build model homes that follow these architectural plans. And then we also have a variety we just actually expanded the restoration tax abatement district to include Tarrytown, so that any homeowner that is improving their house, making substantial renovations in accordance with these guidelines, can have that property tax abatement. And with that, I think we'll take questions. Again, you can use the Q&A feature, or you can raise your hand, which if you, I think it's, if you go to participants, you can click on participants, and then you can raise your hand, and we'll unmute you, and we'd love to take your questions, either written or verbally.
And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about prospects, about projects we've worked on, as well as Jennifer's here to answer any questions about our financing programs or tax incentives you might have.
I think we had one hand raised through the presentation from Michael. If he can be unmuted to go ahead and ask that question to our panelists.
While we're waiting on that, Jennifer, I see we do have one question in the Q&A. Are we a lender? Do you want to just answer that briefly?
Yes, we are. We hold a portfolio of loans, so we are a lender. We hold our JEDCO loans. However, for the 504 program, those loans and the subsequent administration of payment is handled through Wells Fargo. I don't know if that answered the question. Hopefully it did. Happy to give more detail.
It seems that
Well, I think that's Michael trying to ask a question, but Michael, if you can hear us, I think it's you're breaking up.
Well, I see there's a question here in the Q&A from Michael. How has the general sentiment been for business, and have any big projects been put on hold? I will say this, we've been generally overall pleased with the fact that most of the large prospects we've been working on, both on the loan side as well as attraction prospects, have continued to push forward at this time. You know, at the same time, we're balancing that with our existing businesses who are under a tremendous strain right now with the stay-at-home orders that were in place. But we take the continued interest as a good sign that the economy will rebound quickly. And then the silver lining, if there could be any, and you you hate to say it that way with something so terrible, but we do see, and we've already seen some interest in onshoring and possibility for our manufacturing sector to grow here locally as companies look to bring more of that manufacturing back to the U.S. Jennifer, do you want to talk about the fees associated with the 504 loan program?
Sure. The fees are usually about, from my portion, and I say my portion, I mean the SBA portion, they're usually about 1.5% of that loan amount or debenture amount. And SBA also generously takes a 0.5% fee from the first mortgage holder to manage their piece. So, and that lender usually will go to the borrower or the buyer to take that money from them. But specifically related to my piece, it's 1.5%, give or take. It can be approaching 2. The rule of thumb is if you're going to keep the building for more than 3 years, it's always a better deal. Because the reasoning for that is it's a bit heavier than a typical loan for the fees, which are all financed into the loan. There's no money out of pocket for loan fees from the borrower. But if you can keep that building for about 3 years, that's when you're gonna start to profit from that below market interest rate.
All right, we have a question about assisting people with business plans, and while we typically recommend folks to visit with organizations like SCORE or the Small Business Development Centers, there is some limited technical assistance we typically provide. On the financing side, of course, we help companies through the financial, some of those financial projections. Correct, Jennifer?
Well, yes and no, but because we are the lender, for us to also create the projections from which we're making our credit decision, it's not an ideal scenario. So we do partner strongly with LSBDC. So if someone's looking for a business plan from beginning to start with projections, we can certainly give feedback on that, but like I said, to create that for them and then judge their credit on it, that's not an ideal scenario. But the projects that come from LSBDC, I believe we have 100% approval rate for those business plans and projections that come out of them. They're a great resource for small businesses, and they know exactly what not only JEDCO as a lender would want to see, but any lender going out there. So I strongly suggest steering any startups or those businesses looking to get into a different line of business and relying on projected income. I strongly suggest steering them towards LSBDC, and Jerry mentioned SCORE, the SBA mentoring program. It's fantastic.
The question about investor opportunities in Jefferson Parish for rentals, this is a difficult one because I think everybody's sort of guessing here, given the current state of the economy. While all signs point to the economy bouncing back, we don't know yet what that's going to look like. And there's certainly been some thoughts that we could potentially see a softening in the office market as companies have gone to remote work environments. Some have seen that as a positive step and might want to continue to do so. They might shrink their footprint. There also is the thought that suburbs like we have here in Jefferson Parish will benefit as people perhaps flee the more dense environments, the city core, which we've seen a flight to the city core over the last, so many years. So this again is maybe an ebb and flow or a natural progression, but we think perhaps in Jefferson Parish, we could benefit from companies moving out of a more dense environment. Retail will, of course, continue. We see certainly the trends of our larger or big box retailers going to smaller footprints, even the large stores like IKEA starting to open more urban opportunities, more urban properties with a smaller footprint. You'll see probably more order and pickup locations on the retail front as well, and I think we're well situated to capture those opportunities. Annalisa, do you want to talk about perhaps the horizon or the timeline for Churchill?
Yeah, certainly. So one of the questions is specifically about where Churchill Park is located. That is, again, on in the Fairfield area of Jefferson Parish or Avondale. So if I trusted myself more tech-wise, I would share Google Maps, but I'm a little worried I'll lose this presentation. But if you basically, it's in the last major developable area in Jefferson Parish on the West Bank, as you're coming down from the Huey P. Long, going down Lapalco, located there by NOLA Motorsports and the TPC Golf Course and Bayou Signet. And it's currently the home of the Pat Taylor Science and Technology Academy and Delgado River City campus. As far as the timeline, so we drafted the master plan last year. We've been meeting with dozens of business groups and elected officials and developers about it. We're engaging with a couple of firms now on potentially moving ahead on some of these major next steps, looking at funding for infrastructure. There's a lot of infrastructure improvements to make this vision a reality. It's a really innovative look at stormwater management. So rather than having each parcel having its own retention pond, it shares that water retention features to these innovative assets. Oh, look at that, Scott. Thank you. This is more helpful. So Scott is narrowing in on where Churchill is for y'all to see. You can see the existing campus and then all the room for growth. So again, we have existing infrastructure. There's room for additional pads. And then we're currently working on seeking funding to expand that infrastructure. And then there'll be further work with engaging with the parish. We already have had fantastic conversations. They're a true partner on this development for zoning and updating our covenants, codes, and restrictions. But we have some great groundwork laid with this master plan. And again, there's room for current expansion there.
On office rates, I certainly wouldn't consider myself qualified to opine on that. I think our conventional wisdom here at JEDCO is that we potentially would see a softening of rates, but given that we have had very few companies to date indicate to us they're closing or shrinking, and the fact that we could see an uptick in activity tells me that maybe we don't necessarily see those rates going down. But I still think also we're still a couple of months out from seeing the real impact of this situation. Many companies have been able to take advantage of the payroll protection plan. They've been able to take advantage of SBA loans. They've been able to have certain payments deferred. and it will be up to us to monitor when the rubber hits the road, when people have to start repaying loans and bringing employees back, whether or not we see any sort of large-scale failures or closures on businesses' part. Any other questions at this time? Well, with that, Bud, I'd like to thank you and CID for allowing us this time in this forum. We appreciate the partnership, and if there's anything we can do in the future to continue this dialogue and continue this partnership, please consider it done. And then at the same time, I would just offer my organization for any of you that have questions about today's content or other questions about our services or programs, or you think we can be of service, please reach out to us. Please visit our website at jedco.org and consider us your partner.
Yeah, Jerry, and to everybody over there at JEDCO, we certainly appreciate the presentation today and appreciate the partnership and the outreach to the commercial real estate community. To anybody who's here, if you feel there's something you missed or would like to watch any portions of this, we'll be having this posted to our CID website. Also, if you wanted to refer anybody else to watch it afterwards, so it should be up in a matter of days. So you can rewatch it or pass it along to anyone you think might be interested. And again, very big thank you to Jerry and everyone at JEDCO for helping put this together today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Have
you.
a good day.